What if I told you that building wealth has almost nothing to do with how hard you work, and even less to do with luck? Now, for most of us, that sounds completely backward, right? Well, that's the core idea from Naval Ravikant, an investor and philosopher who has put together this incredible framework for building wealth. And it all starts with one simple but really profound shift in your mindset.
So everything, and I mean everything, in this framework kicks off right here with this one powerful idea. See, Naval argues that just chasing money, a bigger paycheck, or status, a fancier job title, it's a trap. They're games where someone else sets the rules. True wealth, that's something else entirely. But to really get it, we first have to be crystal clear on the difference between money and wealth.
Okay, so here's how you break it down. On one side, you've got money. Think of it as just social credit you get for renting out your time. You put in an hour, you get paid for an hour. It's linear. But wealth is a different beast entirely. Wealth is the stuff, the assets that earn for you while you're sleeping. It could be a business, an investment, a piece of software, or content that's out there generating income totally disconnected from your time. Money is a zero-sum game of status. Wealth is a positive-sum game of creation.
So who's the guy behind all these big ideas? His name is Naval Ravikant. He's an investor who's kind of known as the angel philosopher because he breaks down these huge topics like wealth and happiness down to their absolute core. So with that foundation, let's get into the engine that actually drives all of this.
All right, so if the goal is to break free from that time for money trap, how do you actually pull it off? Well, that brings us to the engine of wealth, leverage.
The whole point here is to find a career where your inputs and your outputs are completely disconnected. In most jobs, the scale is perfectly balanced. 1 hour of work equals 1 hour of pay. But with leverage, a single great decision or 1 hour of brilliant work can generate value for years. Just think about it. A software engineer writes a single piece of code that gets used by millions of people. Or a creator makes one video that gets watched millions of times. That's it. That's the magic of leveraged work.
So Naval breaks leverage down into 4 main types. You got the traditional forms, labor, which is basically managing other people, and capital, which is money that you invest. And then you have what he calls the new forms of leverage, code and media. And this is where things get really, really interesting, because there's a huge difference between the old way and the new way. First, you've got labor and capital. And Naval calls these permissioned leverage. Why? Because you need someone's permission to use them. To manage a team, someone's got to promote you. To invest millions of dollars, someone has to give you that money. You need a green light to get access.
But then you have code and media, and these are permissionless. This is the absolute game changer of our time. Anyone, you, me, anyone with a laptop can write code, start a podcast, or upload a video right now. You don't need anyone's approval. As Naval says, it's like having an army of robots working for you 24/7 for free. They are the great equalizer in building wealth today.
Okay, so we have these incredibly powerful permissionless tools at our fingertips. Awesome, but what do you actually do with them? You can't just apply them to anything and expect it to work. To truly build wealth, you need to apply that leverage to something that is uniquely yours. And this brings us to this amazing idea of escaping competition entirely by finding what he calls your specific knowledge.
This is what Naval calls specific knowledge. And it's not something you can learn in a textbook. It's that sweet spot where your unique talents and your genuine passions all collide. Think about it. What's that thing you were obsessed with as a kid? The topic you just can't stop learning about. That's your specific knowledge. It's the stuff that feels like play to you, but looks like hard work to everyone else. So seriously, take a second and ask yourself this. What's the thing you do where you just lose all track of time? Before society told you to get a real job, what were you just naturally geeking out on? That right there, that's the signpost pointing directly to your specific knowledge.
And this is where it all clicks. When you actually build what you do around that authentic core, your specific knowledge, you literally escape competition. Why? Because your unique mix of skills and interests, nobody else has it. It's like Naval says, no one can compete with you on being you.
Okay, so let's recap. We have the tools, that's leverage, and we have the unique skill. That's our specific knowledge. But here's the catch. Both of these only pay off big time over the long haul. And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, having the mindset to play the long game, which is all about the power of compound interest.
Here's a great way to think about it. Short-term games are what we call zero-sum. Everyone's just fighting over the same sized pie, trying to get the biggest slice for themselves. But in long-term games, well, they're positive sum. The players are all working together to bake a bigger pie. That way, everyone's slice gets bigger. It's a totally different mindset, and it applies to business, relationships, everything.
So how do you actually play these long-term games? Well, it boils down to a few core principles. You make it a point to only work with high-integrity people. You protect your reputation like it's your most valuable asset. You partner up with rational optimists. And, this one is huge, you take accountability. You put skin in the game, tying your name and reputation directly to every single thing you do.
Okay, let's tie this all together now. We've talked about leverage, specific knowledge, and playing the long game. But these aren't just random ideas. They fit together perfectly into a simple, powerful framework for building wealth.
So here it is, the whole framework in just 4 steps. First, you build your specific knowledge, the thing that's uniquely and authentically you. Second, you apply permissionless leverage, like code or media, to scale that knowledge out to the world. Third, you take accountability, putting your own name on the line. And finally, you play the long game, letting compound interest work its magic on your wealth, your relationships, and your reputation for decades.
And this final thought from Naval really wraps it all up perfectly. Making money isn't a skill. It's who you are, stamped out 1,000,000 times. Wealth, in this framework, isn't some trick you learn. It's the natural result of figuring out who you are and then using leverage to share that unique value at scale. It's basically about productizing your authentic self.
So, let's end where we started, but with this whole new way of looking at things. After all this, you have to ask yourself, are you building wealth, creating assets that work for you? Or are you just getting better and better at renting out your time? The answer to that question, well, that could change everything.